Hello everybody! We are back in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 Gunslinger. This is the 9th scenario. And we have here our objectives. We have the minimum park value of 25,000 and a minimum length of 885.83 feet for 2 coasters. Entrepreneur, you will see once again our absolute favourite of the favourite. Repay the loan. And we also had a minimum park value of 50,000. Finally, we have a park value of 75,000 and satisfy a guest who wants to be visiting 2 roller coasters of 4 plus excitement. We have put our loan all the way up and taken the absolute maximum that we can, and you will see our paths are absolutely filthy, so we're going to hire some staff. And I really rattled through this. I've slashed the price for every Slash member right the way down to the minimum. We have 2 rides currently in the park, 1 outside the park. We ignore that one. The 2 rides inside the park are not brilliant, but if you just saw what we done there, it was a 6 plus excitement roller coaster. We charged quite a lot for that, but there is an issue with that. You'll see later on. Also, mistakes learned from the last playthrough. We ran through all the shops and make sure all the shops are selling all of the items that they can, because for some reason the game only puts the cheapest one in and we want to make money. Running through now the staff, just disciplining those who have over 50% laziness to try and get the most out of them, more so than anything. I have not spent any money yet in training the staff. Roller coasters, we've got a good supply, but only a few in theming. Rides, not brilliant. They're not the most thrilling rides, they're not the ones that you can charge an awful lot of money for, so we really do have to look after the roller coasters. To make this roller coaster on screen now get the most bang for its buck, I put the cars up to 3. You'll see there 6.43 excitement. Spoiler alert, that changes. Don't know why, but it changes and we do have to play with it later on. As mentioned, thrill rides, not brilliant. We're going to have to rely on the roller coasters, so we go straight into roller coaster building with our budget. Of course, we have picked the mine train to keep in with the theming, and also trying to conserve as much space as possible to try and get it all the way to the fence best as possible. And then I realised I didn't need the silly little S piece. With the amount of space it takes to turn, plenty room for the queue and the exit without having to stagger away from the path. So the theory for this roller coaster, again, I don't want to blow all my money. I only had 13,000 and I don't want to use all of that. So we've tried to keep it fairly low to the ground, lots of humps and bumps, a few tight corners. Not too fast. This is the highest point there, so you can see it's not the best roller coaster in the world. We've hugged the outline of the fence just to maximise the footprint that we're allowed, because we do still have to create a minimum ride length, so it still has to be fairly long. Of course, the higher up you go, the more money you waste as well. My normal build sort of theory when I go for these roller coasters is always bring it back up to just underneath the height that it's previously been to, and try and weave it and wind it in and out itself. Lots of drops, but at the same time trying to make the corners not at the lowest point, so you're not getting massive G-forces as and when we hit the corners. So you see I brought it back up, now I've put the corner back in, now I'm going to dip it down again and try and bring it up before there's too tight a corner. In fact, that's the helix, which isn't so bad because obviously you have to tilt the coaster in the way to go around the helix corner. So just a case of getting the helix wrapped where it fits I do manage to fit it in eventually. It's just a case of making sure it lines up correctly with the dip and the tilt. The tilt was actually the main problem here. The hitboxes in this game are sometimes a little weird. That helix would have fitted over a straight piece but not a tilted piece. For some reason the tilted piece takes a little bit extra in terms of hitbox space. Don't know what the reason for it is, but it is what it is. I did dip into the ground just a little bit there. No real reason for it other than I wanted the extra drop space more so than anything else. And you can see I am enjoying building this with the ability to slope the roller coaster either up or down while turning a corner. So a few of those elements in just to make it look a little bit more unique. And now I've got myself to a space where I'm thinking, how on earth do I end up weaving this coaster back through itself all the way to the start? There is a chance I don't do it in one. In fact, I don't think I do. But eventually we get ourselves back to the station, all simulated with a couple of humps on the way there. So as per usual, just trying to find our way through the hitboxes. In real life that would have went by no problem, but the game is the game. It is what it is. Instead we've got an extra few twists and turns rather than an extra few ups and downs. And these are the humps I was talking about all the way back to the station. I left a space at the top of the hump just in case I needed to put some block brakes in, or I decided to try and run this with 3 cars, or 3 trains I should say, but we didn't do that in the end. As for the pathing round, or the queuing round the top of the ride, I kind of wanted to emulate how a train station works just because I could, so I ended up going for the queue in the train station styly bridge. And I think yes I did, I moved it back one just so I didn't have the slope end directly onto the queue exit, which shouldn't have been a problem. And I don't really know what this problem was, but the ground or pathing or whatever it was, it just didn't let me do it. So I don't know. I really don't know what the explanation for that was. It must have just been a little bump in the train, but I ended up with what I ended up with, whether it's what I wanted or not. There is going to be a stage here of me just running the roller coaster on construction mode to make sure I get the ratings, and of course while that's going on we're recolouring the roller coaster so it's not just black. I did leave in some grey to simulate rails, make it look as train-like-ish as possible. And there's the car back into the station, so you'll see now, excellent stats. I got this one right first time, so very pleased with myself on that one. And yeah, as soon as I get something 6.5 without too much intensity or nausea, I'm happy with that, and I'll put the price at $5.50, and that should be a money earner. You know, people should flock for something that exciting and pay that much for it. Just looking through at the other rides, as mentioned earlier, there's a fairly piss poor selection, if I'm being completely honest with you. The ride I've chose, not the cheapest, but possibly the one with the best excitement rating. Didn't really know where to put it either. It is themed to the Gunslinger scenario, but it does also stick out like a sore thumb as well, so I thought why not stick that right over the entrance, because how cool would it be if the first thing you see upon entering the park is this big rotating case of TNT swinging towards your head. Why not? And of course we are going to have our on-ride section. So nice, gentle lift hill. Of course there are two of them, so we can turn around the corner up to the highest point. And there we go down, nice and smooth turn at the top, and straight back into another small dip with more twists and turns, another big dip, and as I mentioned while building this coaster, this is what I was trying to achieve, lots of dips with the turns being more so at the top of the track rather than at the bottom of the track. The speed, nice and consistent, except for the dips of course. These corners here are slightly tighter and faster, but it is what it is. Round into the station, and there we go, that is the ride. I often find with Roller Coaster Tycoon, if the ride looks slow, it's probably quite good. Obviously when you're on a roller coaster in real life, it's definitely one of those things, you get that element of speed, the feeling of speed, but watching it on the screen is not so much how it goes. And then of course we change the train colour from blue to a more fitting browny yellow colour. Now I'm just spending some time training up the staff. We didn't train any earlier on, but it's got to the stage now where their unhappiness will make them leave, and really we would just rather certain staff like the entertainers and the mechanics and the cleaners know exactly what we're doing. And we're at a stage now where I know fine well I am going to pass the first set of objectives. It's just a case of see how you can improve your park and make the park better as time goes on. So lots of bins, because there's lots and lots of litter and vomit in this park. This isn't rocket science, you've seen me do it before. What we want to do is make the lives easier for the cleaners, and of course doing things like that will in turn bring us more results, because it'll bring us happier people, it'll bring us better reviews, it'll make people stay in the park longer, and all in all that ties into each person visiting the park spending more money. And using all the mistakes that we've learned from the past episodes, I have been cutthroat this time. You'll see me there slicing the research budget down. We're already paying our staff absolute peanuts, even the vendors that get paid even less than peanuts, they're now getting paid half of even less than peanuts. We really are going to maximise profits in this park as best as we can. In terms of the difficulty level, this scenario is not, I don't think, as bad as the last two. As long as you put everything in place that the last two scenarios kind of provoke from you. This scenario is quite simple, but it is another case of the objectives being a little bit copy-paste. The repay loan being in every single scenario does get a little bit tedious, and believe it or not, it's actually been highlighted to me more now that I've actually started to create content. When I'm editing these videos, the amount of time dedicated just to repaying the loan is absolutely shocking. You really do notice it even more so when you look at it in essentially what is bar graph form by the time you edit the video and you form a timeline. And ultimately that is what we're starting to do now. We're looking ahead to not spend extra money. We look to save money and be as efficient as we can while we build, because we know that we're going to be twiddling our thumbs for a fairly long period of time afterwards. And luckily for you guys, I have been playing with the edit features, so we are hopefully cutting out a lot of the absolute rubbish. That said, guys, please give me your feedback. Actually talk to me. If you've watched this video, I do still play around with the format of these videos. The stuff at the start, we fired through that at absolute rapid fire pace because I don't feel you want to see me cut every member of staff's pay by half, you know, every time we start up a new video. So if you've got any feedback on the format that you like or you don't like, let me know. Likewise, I have done this again with post commentary because I find the numbers are a little bit better and the audience retention is a little bit better when the game is sped up. But I would absolutely love your feedback on all of those things. I do still consider myself new at this. I don't really know what I'm doing yet. I don't have a wealth of experience. This was really just a lockdown project, and we're still locked down, believe it or not. And it looks like it's going to be that way for a little while longer. To give you a bit of my background, I have a background in running events, team working, team effectiveness, stag parties, hen parties, outdoor events, rope courses, quad biking, archery, all of that stuff. All of that stuff that with the current guidelines issued by the government, I'm not allowed to do and I don't have the demand. On to the other roller coaster in the park. This is the pre-built one. I realise I just cut myself off there, just when the video got here. This is the pre-built coaster in the park. It's not overly exciting. And coming up, you're going to see that for some reason, the statistics on this roller coaster that were really high have plummeted. I didn't know what it was. So there we are, back into the station with this roller coaster. And you'll see I pull up the stats. 2.87. It's like, what? How did that happen? The only change I made to this was adding a cart. And as you can see, next to no riders. Because, well, why would you? It's overpriced now that the excitement's gone down. We did fix it. We fixed it just by speeding up the chain lift and ticking the low friction box. So you'll see there, back up to 5.88 excitement. That allows us to continue charging a high price for it. And you can also see now the peeps starting to come back. Word is obviously out that this roller coaster isn't as shit as first thought. Checking the requirements for further ahead. We have a celebrity that requires going to 2 4+ excitement roller coasters, so just set it up now. As mentioned, this game has so much thumb twiddling. It is set up the part whereby we are making money every month, even with expenditures. So it's one of those things, you know fine well you're going to get there, it's just a case of how quickly you can get there. And I do still believe the best course of action is still to spend money to keep people coming back to the park. Rides do have this system whereby if they're old they get stale. So adding things to the park gradually, I do believe is faster than just building the park and walking away, because you're not going to get as many people through the door as you would otherwise. And for one of the first times in this whole series, I have started to dick about with the scenery. The bits of scenery I've added, it was cheap stuff. Technically it will make your ride a little bit more exciting as well, but really not enough to merit a price raise or do anything drastic. And of course we put the mini rodeo inside the other coaster because I just like the fact that it, to a degree, interacts. You can imagine little kids coming in there and having that big mine train sweep past them, especially while they're queuing. Just gives them something to do. It's not a statistic that the game recognises at all. but it is what it is. I've now also decided, while I'm waiting and twiddling my thumbs, that I wanted a few more buildings. Now, I'm not necessarily the best at building buildings, certainly not the fastest at it, so we have copied and pasted, using the in-game features, a few more buildings. It is really the absolute pits of scenery. And there was actually a little mistake there whereby I missed the front wall off of that second building. You can see I did rebuild, not necessarily the same way as it was built previously, but I rebuilt. While doing all this, naturally the goals have passed, and really that's why I'm doing it anyway. I am filling time. I know the park's making money, so I've got the freedom just to do other things. The park, because we did all the stuff that we did at the start, is essentially running itself. And on that note, whoever was managing this park previously was doing an utter crap job, which seems to be a recurring theme. Finally here, we are just adding in one more roller coaster. Didn't necessarily know where to put it. And really, we're doing this because we have to reach 75,000 park value, or 7,500,000, I cannot remember. It is, if I check the notes here, 75,000. And we needed another roller coaster to do it. But as you saw from the list, nothing else that we had would fit the scenery. So I just picked a generic one. I wasn't going to spend lots of money in research and cross my fingers and just hope something else themed comes up. Likewise, we're so close to the end of the scenario. In fact, the VIP is already here, although, slight brown pants moment, the ride she was going to is broken down, despite the fact I have 3 mechanics and maintenance set to every 10 minutes. So the game got paused, we rectified that situation and repathed the celeb's path. But yeah, the only other purpose for that roller coaster now is just to pass the scenario and nothing else, because it raises the park value. And that is it. We have achieved the scenario. So guys, that is it. That was Poison Fog Gaming, and that was our Gunslinger challenge. Please enjoy the links currently on screen. Like, share, subscribe. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.